Coming up on this month's episode, we review Keeper, Alan Wake 2, Motorsport Manager, and more. We'll also talk what else we've been playing, plus James's dice with death at a rather scary fireworks display, and I embrace the festivities with some festive activity. All that and more on this month's Aches and Games. Hi folks, and welcome to December's Aches and Games Monthly, a relaxed check-in between two slightly older British friends, talking life, gaming, and whatever else comes to mind. Don't forget, there are timestamps in this episode and all episodes, so you can jump to the games or any other section that you choose. Between episodes, remember to find us on our socials at Aches and Games. I'm Giles Nicholson. I'm Giles Wentwest on most things. Joining me as always is my good friend James Hopes. Hi James, how's it going?
Evening, Giles. Not too bad. Looking very festive.
Thank you.
Behind the scenes, as you wouldn't have seen on the video, I weren't that prepared for the Christmas stuff. So when Giles appeared in his winter jumper, not a Christmas jumper, a winter jumper, I had to dive into my loft to find that Christmas jumper, which I've literally just realised is on back to front. So I've got the label at the front now, so I've just felt. So that's why it looks a little bit turtleneck as opposed to a V-neck, which is probably meant to on reflection. But there we go. We've done our bit for the Christmas special, so awesome. Yeah, good evening. I'm Changeable1978 on PlayStation and Changeable789573 on Xbox and lots of other places. And as always, check out the Facebook page, check out the website, which we'll talk a bit more about later. Let's crack on though, because we've got an urgent deadline because I'm playing 5-side football in an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, and your jumper is constricting around your neck with every minute. It's like a trap, a really bad trap in one of those Saw films, isn't it? That your jumper's just going to get tighter and tighter as we record. Your voice will get higher and higher. Anyway, jumpers aside, we're celebrating 2 years of the show, so thanks for listening and welcome to any new listeners. But it's going to be an evolution, not a revolution, for the show in 2026. So watch out for a few small changes, listen out for a few small changes, and you may even have heard one at the start of this episode. Also, watch out for a bonus episode featuring our now traditional Games of the Year. That show will be on and out just before Christmas, so hopefully we'll share your Christmas with you. You get to listen to our lovely voices. And we're really keen to hear what your favourite games of the year that you played this year are too. So feel free to use those socials and write in to the email address achesandgamespod@gmail.com. James, admin over. What have you been up to this month?
It's been November, for those that are watching on catch up. And it's always a busy month, November, because you've got all the fireworks stuff, but you've also got the gradual build up towards Christmas. It's a lovely time of year, one of my favourite times of year. Great chance to wear Christmas jumpers back to front and to do lots of other fun, exciting stuff. So November, I mentioned in the last episode that we had the fireworks from the balcony from our house over the road that always spunks loads of money on fireworks and looks awesome. By contrast, we then went to the Scouts fireworks. Joshua does Scouts, and we go to Scouts fireworks once a year. And they're a lot more low-key, a bit more understated. So there's a Scout leader called Rita, who's quite old, used to be a teacher, quite direct. And her husband, the other Scout leader, is called Ron. And Ron isn't quite as mentally with it as he perhaps was in his youth. So every year, the Scout Fireworks Night is entertaining in that you do some campfire songs, which generally involve songs about ripping legs off birds for no apparent reason. You stink of fire, have some hot dogs, and then Rita says, Ron, why don't you go and lead everyone down to the fireworks? And Ron stands there as if he has no idea what was going on. So literally for 10 minutes, Rita was just shouting at him, saying, Ron, are you going to do the fireworks? And he suddenly switched back on, bless him, went to the fireworks, and we're always fascinated to see if he goes up in smoke with any of the fireworks. But this year, he had a young helper who was probably about 14, so it was like a 80-year-old and a 14-year-old in charge of the fireworks. And it was fine. No one died. It didn't rain. It looked average, and we survived it all. So that was one fireworks spectacular. The other fireworks spectacular I want to talk about is the Reading Football Club one. We always talk about Reading Football Club because it's a passion of mine. And should be a passion of Giles's, but he's not as passionate about Reading Football Club as me. Who is? We did a special. We have an American chairman, or American owner, called Rob Kuig, and he loves fireworks, apparently, and he also loves AI. So for the weeks before it, there was some AI slop of him taking some fireworks out of a cupboard. Massive build-up. It was going to be the most spectacular fireworks display ever. We were a bit worried, because after the game, well, the fireworks were due to be after the game, so we thought if the game was awful, and we got dicked on, then the fireworks would be a bit underwhelming. As it was an awful game. We drew 1-1, so it was like, yeah. And then the fireworks matched exactly the spirit of the game. They were, nah. There's a few different colours, there's a few splats and splodges, and supposedly it cost like 20 grand, and it was arse. But there we go. So that was our fireworks finish. The best fireworks of the year were our neighbour's garden. The two professional displays were a bit muppety. Anyway,
Nice.
say some things.
bit of a damp squib by the sounds of it in gaming terms, in game terms, and in firework terms. Excellent. Yeah, your suggestion that an elderly man who doesn't really know what's going on and a 14-year-old were doing fireworks makes me think that all those people that talk about health and safety gone mad maybe haven't gone to a community event, because the sheer thrill and terror of those sorts of things lives on, doesn't it? Hopefully, like Ron, for another year.
Until next time, yeah.
Amazing. We didn't go to any fireworks. We did do Windsor Illuminated this year. So getting festive nice and early. It's one of those sort of light trail type things. I think you went previously, didn't you? You went last year.
We did last year. It was great, yeah.
It was really good. It was a bit more geared towards kids than I was expecting. I don't know. We probably hadn't done our research very well. We traditionally have gone to a more, traditional version at Wisley, which is part of the Royal Horticultural Society. So it's going to be towards the sedate end of the events. And this was very different, but there were some pretty kiddie stuff with sort of fairies and elves and whatnot. But there was also some really lovely displays with kind of lit up trees, a bit like Wisley, lit up plants, also projections onto water, onto fountains and things. Sounds like it might have been done last year. And also some really amazing sort of floating lanterns and stuff. So yeah, had a lovely time, and that was our. We didn't see any. Well, we saw some fireworks from windows, but we've been hitting the illuminations early. Are you getting in the Christmas spirit, James?
I was going to say, just to give you a little heads up, a lot of things around the Christmas period are aimed at children. Just so you know.
I mean, we went with Hannah's mum and dad, so the average age of our party was probably about 60, I would wager. And big kids enjoy it too. I really like the dancing and singing badger. I mean, I'm not above that.
Badger.
Yeah, there was a little festival stage sort of halfway round,
which
was
called. That part.
Oh, he was there, was he?
No, the stage was there, but I can't remember a badger.
Yeah, definitely a badger. I think they were doing a couple of recognisable hits. Not that Christmassy. I think we had Bon Jovi, bit of Elton, and Amy Winehouse. I believe was a deer, which I'm not sure if that's factually accurate, but it has been a long time. So she had a great voice, just like I remember.
Oh dear, I would say, to wrap up that set. Lovely. I was going to say, to keep on the winter theme, Joshua did a winter festival at his secondary school. So all the people who do some kind of music thing as a club turn up and do some music things at the winter festival. Nothing to do with winter, not really a festival. You just sit in a hall and watch them do some things. But all the kids who play instruments were there playing instruments. There's a couple of bands bands from his school that were quite good. There's a pianist who was in year 7, so only 11, been playing the piano for 2 years, and he's amazing. Ludicrous talent on the piano. I couldn't put anything together on a piano, but he was awesome. Josh was in the choir. He's in the junior choir, so he sung 2 songs. He sung "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey, and he sung another song which I can't remember what it was, but it was by a band from the 90s, and it's very enjoyable. So we did really well. Weren't allowed to video it, but fortunately one of the parents at the end of the road did video it before they told us not to video it. So she then shared a video around, so we had the video. That was sort of illicit video of children singing nice Christmas songs. So good fun, really enjoyable. Some really good people playing some really good things. So that was a nice wintry type thing to celebrate the joy of musicians and children.
Cool. Have you been up to anything else this month? We've been hitting the comedy, which was needed after a boring month of domestic stuff. We got our driveway sorted. We've been doing some garden prep, all the old things. But it is really nice. It's looking nice. It's good to relax. It's good to have it done. And so we decided we'd celebrate. It was very much in the diary. I went into Reading to watch Stevie Martin at South Street. She was on last season of Taskmaster, and it was very good. Saw that with Madeline and Scotty and some of their friends, and that was really fun. She's a much more online comedian, certainly younger, I think, than the average comedian that we've tended to see. but really good content. I was a bit worried that it would all be sort of TikTok based and last, a couple of seconds each joke, but she was very good. The other thing we went to see was it's technically a Christmas themed comedy event at High Wycombe just yesterday, actually, time of recording, which had loads of people, again, mostly off Taskmaster, who we wanted to see. So Maisie Adam, Mike Wozniak, Bridget Christie, and Sam Campbell, and a guy called, going to get his name wrong now, Jinho Lee, I think, who was brilliant. I hadn't seen him before. He was very funny. Unfortunately, it was mostly very good, but Sam Campbell was the headliner. He's, I think, Australian, youngish, was kind of funny on Taskmaster, again, in sort of small doses. Oh my gosh, I have not seen comedy recently where I wanted so much for it to finish, so much to end. He was dreadful. He was really dreadful. Shouty, kind of not particularly funny. Didn't, that sort of fine line between feeling like it's brilliantly rehearsed but comes across as chaos, and just someone who you feel like may have just sort of wandered on stage and not actually been Sam Campbell. It was kind of more towards the latter, I would say. So the highlight was when he catapulted a number of filled up washing up gloves, the marigolds, out into the crowd. Like, genuinely, that was the highlight of his set. I'm not quite sure what he was doing, but Sam, if you're listening, maybe get help. That was not good. Everyone else was very good, and it was a really nice night out. But so that was our damp squib of the month. Anything else you've been up to, James?
No, I was going to say, did everyone else laugh in the crowd, or were you just being old?
No, it was. There was some chortling. I think we're all very British, and it felt quite awkward to not laugh. So I think some people gave him a bit of a pity laugh. Some people seemed to be enjoying it, which comedy is subjective and all that. Mostly, he was just doubling down on it and kind of pointing out that he was enjoying himself more than most of the audience, and that would have been really funny if it wasn't quite so true. Again, I thought he was really good on what we've seen when we've seen him on panel shows and stuff like that. But I think small doses, reacting to other stuff, I think that's his, for me anyway, that's probably his kind of wheelhouse.
It's a very different environment, isn't it? Weirdly, you're getting old when you are recording a podcast on a video, and then you look at the screen and think, I can't remember that bookcase being there. And I look around and realise that it's your house and not my house, and that's why the bookcase isn't in my house.
Judge, I thought you were gonna shame me for the thing that we've hopefully edited out, which was me looking at the record button, thinking it wasn't recording, and stopping us. Between us, we're doing well. We are, as you said at the start, we are trying to sort of squeeze this in this month. So I blame that. I'm coming straight from work. I'm still in work head, and hopefully, that doesn't really bode very well for work.
No,
From this much of a mess.
Doesn't bode well for my football tonight either. But there we go. A few more things. Blimey, I'm starting getting old. I can't even talk.
It's the jumper.
back on South Park, is it Mr. Mackey that his head explodes, or is it Mr. The teacher, or his tie gets tighter and tighter and his head gets bigger and bigger?
This is also the side of being old when you get, the teacher. In fact, this was basically Bridget Christie's whole routine yesterday. Go on, James. Come on, save us.
Anyway, we finally got around to watching Wicked. Sarah and Joshua and Mags and their kids went to watch Wicked originally when it came out, but I didn't. But now we knew Wicked Part 2 was coming out. I thought I'd better watch Wicked Part 1. That was really good. Very enjoyable. Sarah and Joshua watched it again and equally enjoyed it. We watched it on DVD at home, and Ariana Grande was great, and Cynthia Erivo was great, and interesting plot, and quite fun. So I really enjoyed that one. So now we've got a book. No, we're seeing it on Sunday. We have booked. We're going to see Wicked for good on Sunday to see how the drama unfolds. So yeah, very much looking forward to that one. Long overdue because it's been out for a little while now, and we're trying to be current, but we're a few weeks behind. All good. Two little things. I think I mentioned last month that mint hot chocolate come out in Pret. I love this time of year because these specialty hot chocolates come out in all the coffee shops. The mint hot chocolate in Pret, the first few times I had it was lovely. I was very excited. And one time I had it at work, I think they put the goo, the juice, the liquid, fluid of some
Syrup.
description on top.
Syrup.
Syrup, that's the one. On top rather than at the bottom. And then they didn't mix it up. So they put the stuff and mix it all together, and then they put some cream on top. They can't put the lid on because the cream's so high that it wouldn't encompass the lid. So took it back to the office, ate the cream off as you do because you have to remove the cream before you get to the drink. And somehow by that stage it kind of congealed. So the cream had sort of wrapped around the top of the edge in little splodges. The mint had separated itself from the hot chocolate. And it looked like, when you've been vomiting a lot and it comes to the end and you've got just a bile left. It looked like someone had done that in a cup, and it completely put me off. So Christmas is now ruined, unfortunately, for festive hot chocolate. So I've gone back to the normal hot chocolate. Fascinating story, I'm sure you agree. Last bit from me.
The sort of gold people I'm sure tune in for. Thanks for sharing, James. Yeah, go for it.
If you're going to prep, don't have a mint hot chocolate unless it's properly mixed. Make sure it's mixed before you take it away. If not, complain because it's poor. And then on the 27th of November, I was going to say we celebrate. We don't really celebrate. We remember the passing of my dad 5 years ago. And every year he, from beyond the grave, plays some kind of trick on us for the bands. So every year something breaks in our house on the day of my dad's death. And this year it was a tumble dryer and the boiler. So it managed to trash the boiler and the tumble dryer in one day, which is quite disappointing. So the tumble dryer I fixed myself by taking it all apart, resetting it, and found two congealed socks within the workings, in the bowels of the machine, which I'd lost a good year ago. So they must have been in there for a long time. They were quite dusty when they came out, I must admit. That fixed the tumble dryer, but the boiler was kaput. So we've had to call in our repair company. We were without hot water and heating for 5 days. I had to wash my bits and pieces over a sink, which I really dislike doing. But finally, the boiler got fixed yesterday, so now we have hot water and heating. And my dad's curse is finally resolved until this time next year, when no doubt the house will burst into flames or something ridiculous will happen. The end. Thank you for listening.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. These we have these milestones we have to kind of acknowledge and get through, but a little haunting definitely doesn't help. Glad everything's fixed. That's the main thing. You mentioned Wicked. You're not a big musical fan, are you, in general?
Love musicals.
Oh, okay.
I produced 2 musicals at uni.
I remember, but I didn't think you were a big watcher. But that does mean that you've watched at least as many films as me this month. I'm usually the film guy, so I won't. Nothing of note on my list. It's just because on TV, Slow Horses, we watched season 5. I was a bit disappointed, honestly. It's a great show. It's still very good, but not quite up to the first 4, and I think they've already recorded the 6th one, so hopefully that is a return to form. But we did rewatch The Night Manager season 1. Season 2 is coming to BBC iPlayer or BBC on, I think, New Year's Day, but certainly in the new year. And Tom Hiddleston, it's brilliant. I don't know did you watch it? It was years ago.
No.
It was years and years ago. It's Sir John le Carré, so the guy who did all the Smiley books, like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Constant Gardener, stuff like that. Very much into his spies and sort of intrigue and mystery. And this was kind of one of those stories, quite Bondy, quite sort of glamorous people and location. Tom Hiddleston being sort of young, and then going straight to the trailer for season 2, which is it must be about 10 years, I think, after it was first on. It's quite shocking to see. We obviously all get older, so that's nothing to be criticised. But it is quite a surprise when you just you see someone in their youth and then immediately see them time jump forward. I'm glad that people can't do that with us. Although maybe if we're recording in 10 years' time, people will go back and listen and look at this episode and think, "Wow, look at those fresh-faced whippersnappers."
That's a very big if.
There's two unbelievable things in that flies to fancy. Okay, well, should we?
I was going to say, Joe, I don't think I look much older than I did 20 years ago, but 20 years ago I did look very old. So I aged very quickly. I probably looked in my mid-40s when I was about 20, and now I hopefully still look like I'm in my mid-40s. Now I'm in my mid-40s. Although I will be 47 very soon, just a few weeks. Christmas Eve for anyone listening and that wants to send in any gifts, and cash, bundles of cash are fine as well. Just email Giles and he'll send that on to me. Thank you.
Yeah,
in advance.
I will pass it on. Excellent. Well, in case you don't get bags of cash coming through, we do both have the subscription services. So when it comes to what we've been playing, regular listeners will know we always try and pick a game off the subscription services that we can both have a play for at least a few hours, and we come back together, compare our thoughts. And this month's game was Keeper. From Double Fine, available on or playable on Xbox Game Pass. It's also available on PC or Game Pass. It is a puzzle adventure. You play as a sentient lighthouse befriended by a bird called Twig, although I'm not sure they ever mention the name. Everyone seems to know this bird is called Twig. Very cute bird. They set out together on this kind of wordless journey through this weird landscape, and they climb a mountain. Not entirely sure why. Did they ever say why? No. You've got to climb a mountain. Who doesn't want to climb a mountain? If we were doing musicals, one could break into song right now, but I won't, because we don't have time, and listeners, you don't need to hear that. James, what did you think of Keeper?
What did I think of Keeper? Interesting. Yeah, I was looking forward to Keeper. You sold it quite well last month when we were talking about it. It sounded short and interesting and fairly unique, because you don't often play as a sentient lighthouse in video games these days. That's kind of gone a bit out of fashion in recent years. Yeah, so there were some good parts and some bad parts. So these days, just so you know, listeners/viewers, we like doing reviews, so we're going to do reviews a bit more often now and make them a bit more structured. So you notice that each review we do today is going to be in a structured format. So we're going to say some pros and say some cons and give a score and say what it's available on, and do it like proper people do when they do proper reviews, because we are proper people. Anyway, yes, back to the game. So in summary, Joel's already explained what it's about. It's a lighthouse and a bird. The bird is called Twig, and it is mentioned in the game a number of times, Giles.
Oh.
Yeah, you must.
I was engrossed.
Yeah, often you have to press X to emote Twig or do something to Twig or send Twig.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So we know what the name was, but only from the on-screen prompts. It's not, because they don't talk. Obviously, lighthouses. I say obviously lighthouses don't talk, but they also don't walk. So, already artistic license. Okay, yes. Good point.
Yeah. It starts curiously, because there's a warning at the start of the game saying might be scary to arachnophobia. Not because there's any spiders in it. There's not literally a spider in the entire game. But the lighthouse grows some legs. And even though it only grows 4 legs, it walks around in a spider-like way.
Yeah.
So that's supposedly scary for people who are scared of spiders. Also scared of lighthouses with legs. Obviously the same kind of family of phobias. So, good. So originally the lighthouse starts off and looks after the bird, because the bird's being chased by some dark forces that are flying towards it. So the lighthouse shines its light of hope at the dark force, and the dark forces fly away. And the bird is saved. Hurrah. And that begins a magical journey together of friendship and enlightenment. Then the lighthouse kind of falls down the cliff, and then it kind of gets back up and it stumbles around a bit, and that's quite irritating. So you sort of rock from side to side to get back off the ground. You think, God, this is going to be awful. It eventually gets up, and it's slightly less awful, but only marginally so, because for me, the control system in the game, I didn't enjoy. For those who enjoy really irritating fixed camera angles, you'll probably love the game. I'm not one of those people. Weirdly, having read other reviews in professional magazines, one of the big things they like is the fixed camera angle, because it makes it feel movie-like. God, it's horrific. So, basically, we're in the entire game, whatever direction you try and look in, you won't be allowed to, because it's a fixed camera angle. So it shows you where it wants you to look, and you can't look behind you or to the side of you. And weirdly, it made me feel motion sick at various parts of the game, because my brain was thinking I was going to look in a direction, but the screen wouldn't let me look in that direction. So my brain was thinking, you're going to see that, and it wasn't seeing that. And it made me motion sick. How bizarre. It's an awful design flaw, I thought, because in modern games these days, you expect to be able to look around 360 degrees up and down and everywhere, but this game you really can't, and that irritated me somewhat. So there we go. So the storyline's nice. Like Giles said, it's a weird plot whereby you're trying to climb a mountain. You're at the bottom of this cliff, and you're trying to climb to the top of a mountain. The bird has a child at some stage. Time passes quite quickly. The lighthouse falls apart quite a lot and gets back up and forms different things, which I won't spoil for you in case you are really into that fixed camera angle thing. But periods of years pass by during this game, and sometimes it feels like it, because the movement is very, very, very slow. Especially at the start of the game, you're sort of walking along paths. And being a lighthouse, as you would expect, lighthouses don't walk quickly, do they? Lighthouses all traditionally walk very slowly.
It's quite lumbering, I think, is the word I would have used. Yeah.
Yeah. So annoyingly, it feels a bit like a walking simulator for a lot of the game, because you're walking a lot, very slowly. Think back to Harold Halibut, a previous review we've done. That irritated the hell out of me because he walked so incredibly slowly. And even when he was dashing, he still did it incredibly slowly. Picture this lighthouse. A lighthouse can dash, obviously, to break through things like twigs and bits of string in the way. But even when he dashes, it's very slow and it's very irritating. So I like the story. Graphically, it was good. I'm going to say my pros. Graphically, really good. A nice arc of difficulty. So it starts off really, really, really easy and finishes off really easy. So it goes between incredibly easy to slightly less easy, but still a bit too easy for my liking. And it's a really nice world. It's a nice story about friendship and stuff. It feels nice. It's cozy. It doesn't make you feel unhappy. That's my pros. But unfortunately, my cons were the controls / camera angle was so irritating. I'd nearly vomited and nearly threw it out the window, which are not good things to do at any stage of the year, especially at Christmas. The other thing that bugged me was the difficulty never really got difficult enough for me. So you never really felt any sense of achievement from completing any of the puzzles. Loads of puzzles in it, but the puzzles are quite repetitive. They involve shining your beam of light at something and it bursts or gets bigger or expands or something happens to it. So most of the puzzles are really simple and quite repetitive. There's some fun ones in it, but not that many, so the difficulty was never there. And there's no real sense of peril. You can't die in the game. You can't even be knocked back. You can't fall off anything. You can't lose. You just play the game. So you're always going to win the game. So that sort of nailed it for me in terms of sense of achievement. Missed out a little bit. So yeah, that was my initial thoughts. I'll say some more in a minute, but you say your thoughts because I know you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it a bit more than you did. Still definitely agree with some of those drawbacks. Interestingly, the fixed angle thing didn't bother me. And I was actually thinking that it would make it certainly more accessible for, we've talked about Hannah, for example, and other people who can't quite get used to that kind of control the character with one stick, control the camera with the other. So probably makes it a bit easier. And I did think this is, although there is probably what would be described as mild peril in a BBFC rating, there's nothing too scary. So I thought this would be potentially quite a good game to play with kids who have a lot of patience. Doing the puzzles, they're fairly straightforward. Again, they could do some of that. And I don't know if you know, if anyone listening actually uses it, but there's a really cool feature on Xbox called Copilot, not that one, the other one, which was, so not the AI thing, but a feature where you can actually set up two controllers to control one thing. And so you could share the two controls. So I was thinking maybe you could have one person controlling the lighthouse, one person controlling the beam and twig. And like you said, most of the puzzles involve focusing the beam in the right direction, in the right intensity, or sending twig off to go and do something. So that would be quite nice. You could, as a parent, maybe manage the sort of movement around and kind of help if they get stuck. But I thought that would be quite a nice way to play it potentially. Yeah, I love the world. I think that would be really charming. Again, I could see that being something to share. Really beautiful to look at, I thought. There's sort of bioluminescence in a kind of dusty world at the start. So that's a really nice contrast, really beautiful. Loads of sort of quite bright colour playing on a nice screen with HDR. It looked great. But then some sort of spooky kind of graveyardy, netherworldy type places. You mentioned sort of falling down. You go down into the depths in various times. There's a weird little town full of clockwork people that was, I thought, really charming actually, and weirdly reminded me of Mos Eisley in Star Wars for some reason. Not that there's clockwork people there, but it was kind of that sort of almost a desert kind of dwelling, desert kind of city, desert town vibe with some cool music going on. I thought it sounded great. I really loved the sort of beeps and boops and the weird kind of atmospheric sound effects that were happening because there was no dialogue at all, which I thought was quite cool. And particularly in the first section, I really enjoyed the fact the music felt kind of like this evolving, ongoing single track, which weirdly reminded me very much of the 2012 London opening ceremony, where there was a bit of, I think, orbital and various other sort of instrumental but sort of electronic music. And again, just I felt that was, it made me want to explore, even though the gameplay, like you said, was fairly straightforward. So loved the presentation, loved the world, really loved the relationship between the two characters, the lighthouse and Twig. Thought there was a cute sort of bond, not necessarily that sort of, I was going to say like accidental travel partners rather than friends necessarily, but they sort of certainly developed a friendship. But the puzzles got a bit more interesting as you went along. You did say they're still simple. I think, a couple of ones, there was one with a time mechanic, wasn't there, where you had to sort of change the set time of day to do different things. I thought that was quite cool. But yeah, agree with you entirely. And the controls, to me, it wasn't about the camera for me, it was about the controls. And if you were coming back towards the screen in terms of the camera, then your controls for directing the beam were reversed. And that may be partly what was contributing towards your frustration. To me, that wasn't really the fault of the camera angle. That was just really odd design. I flipped them round because you can invert the axis in the settings, and they were fine. And then I'd start another section where I was walking away from the camera and they'd be backwards. So that kind of annoyed me. I figured there should be a control where you can just, keep it consistent. And even though that's not logical in the world, yes, that annoyed me a lot. I want to talk about the ending, James. So I'm not going to go into specifics, but it does pivot and go in a bit of a different direction at the end. And a lot of the reviews I've seen have talked about how sort of madly creative and exciting and different that was. And I think we've got different views on this, because my feeling was that I had actually, because I was really enjoying the bond between the two characters, because I had got into the kind of lumbering, slow puzzles, I could have done with it being shorter. It took about 6.5 hours, I think, 7 hours to finish. And if it hadn't kind of gone off in a weird tangent, then I definitely would have needed to finish a bit shorter, but sooner. But I was a bit sad because I liked that. I was into that. That was kind of, to me, I'd settled. That was the game, and then it went a bit different. But I think you enjoyed the ending a bit more.
Yeah, it's kind of two halves for me. The first half, I was bored to tears and hated it, and couldn't see myself finishing it ever. But then, after the first transformation of the lighthouse into something else, which I won't spoil, it's not that exciting, but it's much more interesting.
It's a thing.
It sped it up a lot more. The second means of transportation is a lot faster. So that whole section of the game was much more interesting for me because you could do it quicker and you move between things quicker. I like speed. I'm not a slow person. I like slow. I like slouchiness. And then the final section that Giles mentioned is ultra speedy. So it's the final transformation of the lighthouse into its constituent parts, and it was very, very different. Two completely different games. One's a sort of a very slow adventure, Bondy game, and the second half was more exciting, and the final part was kind of manic. So you roll around a lot through lots of different pathways and jump on things and jump over things and jump through things, and it feels slightly out of control. You're sort of just seat of the pants type thing. You're trying to pick a direction at the last second. You're trying to find ways through, and I found it really much more interesting. So the first half of the game for me, score-wise, is probably about a 5 out of 10. Second half is probably about an 8 out of 10 because it's a lot more interesting. So in the middle, it would be somewhere sort of 6.5ish in the middle. Whereas for you, probably the other way around. And for me, it ended on a high and started in the depths of despair. And for you, probably the other way around.
Yeah, you did your best and worst things. Mine were definitely the sort of whimsical nature of it, the presentation, both sound and the look of it. And then just the bond between the two characters. My worst were the camera and the controls. I said camera, and I just realised I was okay with a fixed camera, so I can't quite remember what was annoying about the camera. But controlling that beam was really quite frustrating. And I would love to have a bit more challenge in the puzzles and keep it in that kind of world, but a bit more complicated. If they'd have ramped that up, that would have been good for me. My score was an 8. I think consensus was that the final third kind of made the game for me. I think I would have probably potentially put it as a 9 if it had kept going and evolved. So it sounds like we definitely thought differently on that one, which is what it's all about, isn't
it? Everyone's got an opinion.
Indeed. What else have you been playing, James?
Oh, some other things. I very briefly played a precinct with Sarah. I mentioned a precinct last month. That was like cop drama from the 80s. And we both played it together. We both had a good laugh because, like I said, some of the chases are ridiculous and some of the offences are ridiculous. Just it's a good laugh. You can run people off the road and murder them, and it's great fun. So recommend that one still. Even two players, good crack. She was laughing, watching along in the middle of the night. But it's two big games that I played a lot of this month. The first one I'll talk about is Motorsport Manager. Bizarre. So every now and again, my head tells me to go on Steam and search for some old crap that I've not played before that's highly rated. Whatever it is, even if I'm not remotely interested in motorsport racing. This one was highly rated. It was in the sort of simulation / strategy / management type genre that you can search for on Steam, and it was good. It's 10 years old, but there's not been any better motorsport racing management games since, apparently. So I thought I'd give it a go. It was like dirt cheap because it's 10 years old. And I'm playing a lot of that one. So the theory is, in a review format, is that you take on a motorsport team. You can either take on an existing one, or you can create one from scratch using an add-on that you can also download for free from Steam. So you take this team and you're the principal of the team. So you select the drivers from a pool of people that you can scout, and you sort their contracts out and what type of personality they are and all that jazz. You spend a lot of time upgrading your vehicle. So there's like 6 different components of your vehicle, including your brakes and your gears and the suspension and stuff. So you can pay money to upgrade different parts, and you can build research facilities for different types of thingy. You can upgrade your factory so you do the parts quicker. You can set your strategy then for the race. So you go to race day, you do your practice and your qualifying and your actual race, and you choose your pit crew, you choose what tyres you want to use, you choose how much fuel to put in the car. So it's quite a cradle to grave side of strategy game. And then it's quite hard. It's quite a challenge. For me, who likes playing those type of games, it's actually quite a challenge. I think it's because I created my own team. So when I've looked at reviews afterwards, if you pick an existing team, it's already at a good standard. So it's a bit easier to just tweak. But when you start your team from scratch, you're the worst team in the worst championship of the game. So your car is like the worst out of all of them. So it then takes a lot of time and effort to upgrade your car to get to an even remotely decent standard so you can compete. It's taken me, I think, 7 whole seasons to actually get promoted finally from the bottom division. This morning, before the podcast, I didn't want to come on the podcast having still not got promoted at all after playing 35 hours of this damn game.
Proud of you, James.
Yeah, me too. It's I can sleep tonight finally after weeks of not sleeping because of it. On the pros, again, it's a good learning curve. You have some tutorials at first which teach you all the basics of the game. And like I said, you start off and you upgrade different bits, and it tells you where you're doing well and how you can improve for the future. So that's nice. It's very addictive. Various times in the first few days, I thought I'd never play that again. It's too hard. I'm not enjoying this at all. And then the next day, I'd try and give it another half an hour, one more race, and you're like, oh, did a little bit better in that race. So it's very much a one more race type game. And yeah, it's a good level of complexity. So it's complex enough to keep you interested. There's enough things to tweak to make it feel like you're making a difference, which is nice, but not too complex. So you don't have to spend hours before each race getting bogged down in crap, like in the new FM26. It's just enough to keep you interested, but not to overwhelm you. So you can quickly get through a race in about 20 minutes these days if you play it fairly quickly. There's different speed levels, so you can play the entire 70-lap race if you want to watch the entire thing, which who would, blimey. Or you can cut it down so you watch about 15 laps in high speed mode at 12 speed, and it goes through the whole race in about 5 minutes. So it's a nice little soupçon of entertainment. Not too hard, not too easy. On the negatives, the graphics aren't that great, obviously, because it's 10 years ago and it's just a sort of a top-down look at some racing cars going around the track. Like I said, it's very difficult if you're setting up your own firm from scratch, because you really do start at the bottom. So it's very hard to make a foothold, but after a few years, the reward is paying off. And the other negative was there's no licenses, so it's not like recognisable racing teams. There's no people you would know even from 10 years ago. They're all just made-up names from across the globe with made-up teams and made-up championships. So you don't feel like you're playing part of something that's in real life. It's very much a game world. So I've enjoyed it. I've put, like I said, about 40-odd hours into it now and finally got promoted today. So it's a nice sense of achievement. Whether I carry on now that I've actually got promoted, probably not. I'll probably move on to something else. But it's a nice game, probably about 7.5-ish out of 10. Maybe an 8 if you like motorsport. I don't really like motorsport anymore, so probably 7.5. But it kept me interested enough to play 40 hours of a game I've got absolutely no interest in. So that's a recommendation from me, Charles.
I was going to say, yeah. Looking at the notes, I was trying to reconcile those two things. But you definitely plowed some time into it. If you mentioned Football Manager, so it's essentially kind of Football Manager, but for motorsport, right? But without the licenses. So if Pro
Yeah,
Evo did Football Manager in football, transpose that onto racing, is that kind of fair enough?
yeah. But like for this game, there's like maybe 100 races that you can choose from.
Okay.
Whereas in obviously Football Manager, you're looking at hundreds of millions of people you can scout. So this one feels a lot more compact. You can scout the entire network of people within a few play sessions. So yeah, it's a lot more controlled.
Sounds good. I have always stayed away from Football Manager because I just feel like with my personality that could be could become my personality, which isn't a good thing. I used to enjoy the manager made at things like Pro Evo and
Mm.
FIFA, but even that I've started to find a little bit too much like work, spreadsheets and doing admin and
Yeah.
stuff. I do plenty of that 9 to 5. So, but it sounds fun. Glad you enjoyed it. Although
Yeah.
two 7.5s by the sounds of it. So it's a bit of a meh sort of month for you. No,
Yeah.
6.5. I think you were saying for
Yeah, I
keeper,
think that
weren't
would
you?
have been 6.5 to 7 for keeper.
Yeah,
Two
yeah,
halves, one
yeah.
was good half, one was a bad half. This is 7.5, but 7.5 is like 3/4, isn't it?
That's good in a bit. Yeah, exactly.
75%, that's good rating in the olden days.
There we
All
go.
good.
Well, maybe I'm just comparing because I happen to
Mm.
have had a really good month for games. Like I said, I enjoyed Keeper more than you appeared to have done, and I have 2 more reviews and another game to get through. So, in terms of my reviews, I've got 11/11 Memories Retold. That is 11/11 as in Remembrance Day, and it is a emotional adventure game retelling the stories of life on both sides of the front. So you play it during World War One, I should say, rather than World War Two. You control Harry, who's a Canadian photographer, voiced by Elijah Wood, rather excitingly, for Lord of the Rings fans and everyone else. And he's sort of joined the war really to impress a girl, but also just sort of sense of adventure. And you also play Kurt, who's a German engineer who's much more worthy, joined the war to search for his missing son, who's part of the war effort and has sort of stopped having contact. It's available on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. If you're listening as soon as this drops, it's on PS Plus for another week or so. It leaves in December 16th. And as I'll go on to mention, I really enjoyed it and would highly recommend it. It's not that long a game. It is a bit longer than I expected. It came in, I think, about 8 hours. So 2 weeks to play 8 hours, maybe a week by the time this comes out. It depends how much you play, but I would really recommend it. It was interesting, felt a really sort of important story to tell, and was also actually an enjoyable experience, as much as these things can be. So I bought it for a couple of quid a few years ago, and keep every time it gets to November, I kind of think, oh, that would be kind of cool to play around Armistice time. So this year I finally bit the bullet. Starts off very much less a game and more interactive story. So if you're not into that, it's not the most fast-paced of games by any means. There's not that much that you do, but that does develop throughout the game. There's actually quite a lot more interaction as you go along. Initially, anyway, you're mostly exploring, talking to other people, sort of choosing some conversation. But you also, Kurt, the German officer, is an engineer, so he's sort of working with radios and things. There's some sort of gameplay mechanics around that. Harry is a photographer. You can take photos, and played a few photography games this year. We life certainly
Yeah.
Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, did some photography. I think there was another one, but I can't remember. So it's enough variety. The thing that
Indiana
drew me,
Jones in the Great Circle.
yes, thank you. Yeah, that was across the 2 years for me. Yes, good, and quite cool mechanic in Indiana Jones, wasn't there? That you could use it to kind of get clues for puzzles and stuff.
Yeah.
This is more basic, very much more basic in gameplay terms, but it looks like nothing I've ever played before. It looks like a living kind of watercolor impressionist painting. It's done in collaboration with Urban Animation, so the Wallace and Gromit people, and I've played, some beautiful games. I mentioned I thought Keeper was beautiful. There's loads of, Alan Wake 2 coming up. That's sort of beautiful in a much darker way. But this just, again, I've played nothing like it. It was really striking in terms of what it looked like, and it really played into the themes of the game, obviously being quite sort of thought provoking and sort of slow paced. Started slow, home life, and then sort of mundane army stuff. But you do get to the front. You're never fighting, so it's completely. You are involved in combat, but you are never in sort of combat yourself. The two stories interweave, which was quite interesting theme for the month. And hearing so much from the German perspective was also really good. Could come across a bit worthy, could come across a bit both sides. I mean, obviously, in terms of German leadership in those wars, hard to defend. But in terms of the sort of people on the ground, especially with the story of someone trying to find their son, not really there to kind of cause so much trouble. It was really quite a powerful experience, surprising, beautiful, unique style, excellent ending. Really nailed the ending, which I was pleased about after a few slightly disappointing endings. And the cons were definitely start slow. If you're not into your walking sims, your interactive stories, it won't be for you. And the ending, although I thought it was brilliant, if you like tidy endings, it was very much on the theme that there are no kind of easy answers. So yeah, you need to be prepared for that if you're going to give it a try. I'd give it an 8. I thought it was great, and I'm really glad I finally got to it, and the perfect time of year to give it a try.
Yeah, it's a kind of game I quite fancy, but I'd much prefer it if it was 4 hours. When you said it was 8 hours, I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's fair.
That's a long time for a visual novel / walking simulator / not much action.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd probably give it a go, but I might get bored after 4 hours. But then I feel I need to complete it because it's about the war, so you can't really switch off halfway through a war. Anyway, so if I give it a go, maybe not at Christmas, maybe in January when everyone's miserable. Good. Yeah, my next game, to keep up with the review section of the podcast, is called, keep getting mixed up, this one's called Tavern Keeper. I previously played a game which is awesome called Tavern Master. Me and Joshua played that a lot together, probably about a couple of years ago now on the PC. This one is Tavern Keeper, which comes from the same people who made the original Game Dev Tycoon. Isn't it called Green Acre Games or something like that? This is the second game they've ever made. And if you have the original Game Dev Tycoon on your Steam, you get this one for a lot cheaper than it, as a reward for investing in them 11 years ago, whenever Game Dev Tycoon came out. Anyway, completely different games. These don't involve developing games at all. In this one, it involves running a fantasy tavern. So whereas Tavern Master, which I played before, was just a normal tavern in the olden times, Tavern Keeper, which is what I'm talking about now, is a fantasy role-playing type tavern game. So you still make a tavern, you still recruit staff, and you still choose what ales and wines and stuff you sell, and what kind of food you get. There's food in this one, so you can create your own kitchen, and you can cook rats and stuff, which is quite fun. You can make soup out of rats and other animal parts, which makes it a bit more oldie worldy. It's quite fun. And currently there's 3 scenarios in it in the campaign. They've only made 3 so far because it's an early release. So there's another 2 at least coming in the new year, I believe. So the 3 so far are all in a different fantasy location. So you've got one involving like orcs, for example. So in the orc location, it's in a particular place in the middle of an orc type scary land, and all your staff, you employ orcs, and all the people are coming in are orcs, and that's quite fun. And they do orky type things, so they're a lot more prone to fighting than some of the other campaigns you're involved in. So if they have a big scrap in the bar, if you've taken too long to serve them, then they trash loads of your stuff, and you have to rebuild your stuff, for example. So it's very much themed around that. The fantasy part is quite fun. So every now and again, you get a character come in who has a little book icon above their head, and if you click on the character, it reveals a story about the person that is in your tavern. And they can unlock certain things. So they might gift you something or give you a quest to take on. So as well as it being a normal type strategy building simulation game, you also get these little fun quests, which is quite nice. So for example, one of the quests, a mad scientist comes in and asks you to brew some mystery concoctions in barrels and do certain things to make them happen. And that's how that campaign goes. So at the end of that campaign, if you achieve her quests, then something exciting happens and you get a nice little plot twist, which is based within the tavern, but outside the confines of the tavern. It's a very interesting game. Again, been looking forward to it for a while because Game Dev Tycoon I really enjoyed when it first came out years ago. And this is nice. So it's got all the strategy elements, it's got the fun of the mystery, it's got all the fantasy stuff. Each scenario is very different because you're playing with different characters, different locations, different temperatures, different types of ales, different types of foods, different preferences. You've got to keep your staff happy by building staff rooms with beds and you allocate them shifts and jobs and stuff. So again, it's a kind of a work type simulator, but with lots of fun fantasy elements. So on the pro side, very interesting. Interesting worlds. Everyone's completely different, so it feels like you're playing it fresh each time you play it. Again, good level of challenge. So it's interesting. There's loads to do. You feel like there's something going on at all times. You can again speed up a little bit, but if you speed up, you miss certain things like your beer tap is running out of beer, so you have to quickly go off to a neighbouring village to buy some beer from the market and bring it back. So that kind of stuff. So you've got to stay alert. So there's always plenty to do. And like I said, there's 2 more things coming as well. So I've completed it now, but it's not really complete because there's at least another couple of scenarios coming up soon. So that will extend the campaign into the future. So I'm quite looking forward to the next 2 levels coming out because they will be very different again. On the negative, obviously graphically it's not amazing. It's not really what it's about. It's about building a tavern in the middle of a fantasy land, so fun. Another negative is the fact that... Oh, what was I going to say? I was going to say something really interesting.
Is the map small, would you say?
On reflection, now you've mentioned it, yeah, the map's quite small.
Yeah.
So you're given a little plot of land to build your tavern on, and you can't really expand the plot of land much. So like in the recent hotel game that I was playing, you could build upwards or sideways. In this game, you can't expand your space at all, annoyingly. So when you've done your tavern and you've completed the challenge, there's not much sort of replayability value because you can't really expand it or make it any different because you're confined with this space and you have to build a certain number of functions to make the tavern run. And yeah, you can't really do much after that one. So that's the only negative with that one. And the final negative is the fact that it's only 3 scenarios so far. So once you've played them, the game's kind of dead, which is why I'm looking forward to the 2 new ones when they come. So overall, I really enjoyed it. A bit different, probably an 8 out of 10 for that one. Lots of potential. It's only in early access, like I said, so lots of new features to be added at some stage. And really good. Yeah, really liking Green Acre Games. Happy days.
Nice. When you were getting to your cons, I thought you were going to say perpetuate some negative stereotypes about orcs, damaging, getting into fights and causing trouble. I'm sure there's some good ones out there. It's just those bad apples that, give them all a bad name. Excellent. And did you say that was on Steam, James? So that's a PC platform, right?
Yeah, I did get it on Steam. Yeah. Is it available anywhere else? Great question. It's certainly not on the PlayStation, and it's certainly not on the Xbox, I don't think. So probably it's just Steam. So yeah, it's got Steam.
I would have thought so. If it's early access, it's quite often just on Steam, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yes.
Might come to console one day when it's finished, but not yet.
We'll get the hang of this one day. I've realised that I could have set you up really nicely for the map thing by going, well, what did you think of the map, though, James? And then that would have been more natural, wouldn't it, rather than me reading your notes for you. But no, that's good. Right, you might need to help me for this one because it's a long batch of notes. But Alan Wake 2 is my other review for the month. So played completed Keeper, played completed 1111 Memories Retold, and I'd started Alan Wake 2 last month, but managed to finish it off this month. Was really looking forward to this one, and it didn't hugely disappoint. There are some buts. So 13 years after the events of the first game, trouble has returned to Bright Falls in the form of a cult. It's up to Agent Saga Anderson to investigate. Meanwhile, Alan is continuing his own story, and their stories and realities start to kind of interweave. It's kind of a survival horror action adventure investigate 'em up. I'm not sure that's an official genre, but it does hit all those notes and worth covering. And it's on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I think it was one of the free games on PlayStation Plus a couple of months ago when you picked it up, James.
Yeah.
I had bought it in a shocking twist of events because I don't usually buy games on Xbox. Mainly because there was an amazing deal on the deluxe edition, which meant that I got all the DLC and Alan Wake 1 remastered, which I hadn't technically played because I played the original before it got remastered. So I wanted that in the collection. So I was happy to spend the money, support the developers, love Remedy and what they do. I talked a bit last month about it try not to duplicate what I said last month, but let's go back to go forward. So, mentioned I loved the first game, and that was a sort of focused action adventure with some spooky bits, I thought. James, you played it, you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, weird, wasn't it? Quite psychological. A lot of it was going on in his head. You had the whole dead wife thing, wasn't it? And he was a writer trying to get away to rediscover his writing ability. And lots of drama ensued, including a whole new novel appeared from various places. Fascinating game.
Yeah, indeed. Dead or missing wife.
Mm.
I also played and loved Control. Haven't played any of the Max Payne games, but, Remedy, there's another one, wasn't there? Quantum Break, I think, on Xbox. So, love what they do. Really enjoyed those. As I said, was really looking forward to this. The highs in the game are probably higher than either of those two, so real excellent stuff. But there are some buts, and I'll come to those. Very strong start. So you sort of stumbling around a familiar forest, very disturbing images, kind of trying to break through the screen. You really get that sense of madness kind of taking over. And we meet the cult of the tree, which is a sort of big story throughout the game. Doesn't hold back. Pretty strong horror as well. So I mentioned Alan Wake 1, I thought was kind of a spooky action adventure. This is very much more into the sort of survival horror element. So always did have, you were a bit sort of outgunned, outnumbered. You had to use the light to fight back all these kind of monsters and baddies. Still that, but it's just sort of dialed up. It's much more horrific. It's also quite graphically. Some of the stuff is pretty full on. We then meet FBI agent Saga Anderson, who has the sort of mind place, very much Sherlock Holmes mind palace type situation. So she can kind of go off into this cabin in her mind. The cabin is her mind, something like that. And she can kind of investigate and connect with people she's investigating. So she can profile them, which is kind of getting inside their head and talking to them. She has one of those crazy, wonderful investigation boards with bits of string connecting the evidence and stuff, and you build that up. So it's got this kind of CSI or LA Noire, if you played that game, elements to it, which is completely different from the first game and really added something to me. So that is one of the strengths, I think. We've got these two stories, these two settings and two gameplay mechanics, and the sort of realities tangling and untangling at the same time. So that gives it this sense of variety, unpredictable, really adds something. It is gorgeous in a kind of gross way, very cinematic. Film nerds like me will recognise lots of nods to Stephen King as before, but lots of other sort of spooky stuff. Stunningly sort of produced, some of the shots that it sort of forces in terms of the camera angles. Some of the settings are just brilliant, honestly brilliant. There's a crappy abandoned fairground, which is like classic spookiness, really kept me on edge with the sort of weird noises going on around me. There's some great set pieces. There's one sequence, which anyone who's played the game will know, I will not spoil. Music is involved again, as it has been in the first Alan Wake, as it was again in Control. It is bonkers. It is brilliant. I love the madness and the reality bending. I enjoyed the gross horror stuff in a sort of way, although it was a bit much. It was definitely dialed up. And Saga, as the kind of more grounded character of the two, her world gets increasingly messed up, and it's quite kind of interesting and sort of fun in a perverse way to sort of see that all happen. Alan's world is a reflection of his slightly crazy mind, mad scribbles everywhere. You can't trust what is real, and that's kind of fun. As I said, the Saga investigation stuff brings a new dimension, but that is also one of the problems to me of the game. It does kill the pacing. So I mentioned Saga sort of retreats into this mind place where she kind of joins the dots on the investigation, and that could be after or even sort of between two quite big action-y type set pieces, which really kills the momentum of things. It doesn't ruin the game by any means, but it does break things up. It also means there's a very much correct order to do things. So if you haven't investigated something or profiled someone in your mind place, you can't necessarily progress in the actual kind of game world. That's kind of annoying. Alan's levels are very different. They're different to number one, actually. They're much more like the DLCs. If you've got to play those, he can rewrite his reality, and that's much more of a major part of the game than in the first one. So you can really change the structure of a level. You can change the what's around you, and part of the puzzling is to do with that. So that's very cool, disturbing in a good way, but having those two completely different stories, completely different styles, again, kind of affects the pacing. You can kind of decide to some extent what order you play the different characters in as well. And I don't know if I chose quite sort of the right order, or if it maybe would have flowed better in a different way. But while I enjoyed each bit, it just didn't necessarily fully connect. So the other downside was I thought the final sort of section, I won't say the ending because it's not the ending necessarily, but the final section was not quite up to what had been a really good kind of run up to that. So again, I like a satisfying resolution, whether it's sort of conclusive or it's a kind of Inception style. Oh, I wonder if it was this or if it was this. Whereas Alan Wake 2 for me ended on a bit of a kind of like, don't know if they're hedging for a third one or what, but that was also a disappointment. So played it, completed it, 30 hours. I really enjoyed it. I definitely don't want to undersell how much I liked the game. It looked amazing. It was bonkers. I really enjoyed the investigation. It was just these were all sort of disparate parts of the game that didn't always fully come together. So the pacing, that last section, and very much borderline between kind of interesting, thought-provoking, and sometimes a little bit pretentious. The ambiguity in the game could be, you need to be in the right mood. So I'm really glad you're using half points in your scores, James, because I was like, is it an 8? Is it a 9? Like at one point I thought it might be really up there in my Game of the Year contention. It's still up there, but it's not my favourite game of this year, and I thought it could be at one point. And it's just how much of those cons, how much did they impact me? I'm going to go 8.5. It was a great game, which I take as an 8. It was a bit beyond that, but it wasn't quite fantastic. It wasn't quite in the conversation for me for best game I've played this year. But it was a heck of a ride. And I do have some of the DLC to still play, and I will definitely get to that. So that's Alan Wake 2.
And if you want to find out what was even higher on Giles's Games of the Year list, listen in for the next episode. Coming soon.
Very nice. Thank you, James. James, anything else that you've been playing this month? I've just got one quick
absolutely
one.
Nothing.
Oh no! Well, I'm rabbiting on, aren't I? Let's go quick then. I played almost as a palate cleanser. I played Egging On, which we mentioned last month very briefly. I think it is on Game Pass. It's also on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox to buy if you choose. Because you play as an egg, not Dizzy style anthropomorphic egg with a face and a personality, but an actual egg. So you play as an egg. It's basically an assault course, an obstacle course. You need to roll your way up to the top of a hen house that's in front of you. Sounds very straightforward, apart from you roll like an egg, so it's not quite straightforward. You know, you don't roll in a predictable way. And I mentioned obstacle course. Imagine trying to control an egg over very narrow beams across large drops and things like that. You can jump, which is, I think, not entirely accurate as an egg. I'm not an egg expert. Hey. I wasn't supposed to be a pun, but it happened because I can't speak properly. But I don't think you can jump in real life as eggs, but this one can. So you're trying to make jumps or sort of follow balance beams whilst also being an egg, which is quite challenging in itself. And it is hard as nails. I definitely don't want to go down the egg puns, but it's there if you want it. I kind of love and hate that difficulty. Looking at the user reviews of this game on Metacritic, for example, most people seem to fall into the hate category. What it does well is it balances that ridiculous frustration with very calming music and this kind of weird omnipotent voiceover who is there encouraging you, saying lovely things in a very strong accent, which I thought was sort of Dutch, but the developers are Polish, so it might well be Polish, saying things like "You can do it, egg," and things like that. And when you fall off, which you inevitably will do, don't get down. You've got this. Come on. And it's just very calming. There's this lovely. I wasn't doing the accent. That was just my voice.
Good.
I showed branch into hate crime. So it's this weird balance between hard as nails and strangely soothing. I kind of like it, even though I hate it. And the point about this game, which I failed to mention, is that there are no checkpoints. So if you do fall down, you're right at the bottom, you crack because you're an egg, and you start again. And I can see that being quite annoying, but I can weirdly also see myself playing it quite a bit more. So I haven't played it enough to warrant a review. I doubt I'll finish it. I will jump back in. There is a mode where you can, like a custom mode, where you can then allow it to set checkpoints, which I might give a go, but not yet. I'm going to give it a go for that full run before I do. Strangely good fun, about 2 to 3 hours so far, available on Game Pass if you fancy giving it a go. And if you do have hair to tear out, unlike the two of us, I would just warn you that it might be a bit frustrating.
Sounds horrific. I'm going to not touch it with anyone else's, let alone my own. So, no. And just looking at the clock, Giles, we've got 11 minutes until I need to put my kit on and leave. So we have to talk really fast now for our next game of the month, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I don't know, because the game itself, I think, is only 2 hours, so we can't really talk about it for very long. You're right. Our next choice for December is Thank Goodness You're Here, which is on PlayStation Plus. I think it's on the extra tier. So if you've got Essential, I don't think it's included. That's the 2 games a month. It's on the next one up. It's also on PlayStation, PC, Switch 1 and 2, and is coming to Xbox on December the 9th. So everyone can have a go. Do you want to describe it, James, or shall I?
I think you better, Giles. I've listened to and read reviews about it. It's very northern, very humorous. But yeah, that's as much as I know about it.
That's pretty much it. It's a comedy adventure game. You play as a salesman exploring a fictional town called Barnsworth in the north of England, helping inhabitants solve their problems. It feels to me like it might be a kind of the opposite of the goose game that I quite enjoyed, where you go around just terrorizing people as a goose. It's kind of cartoon-style 2D visuals, primarily based on the comedy. So Metacritic's 89 for PC, 84 for PS5. It is very short, which, given we've all got lots coming up in December, is probably a good choice for this month's game. And it was just added to PS Plus. So yeah, if you've got that, then why don't you join us and let us know what you think?
Yeah, well, up for it. Be interested to see if the northern humour translate to us. Very much middle class Southerners. So we shall see. I'm looking forward to it, especially the shortness.
Excellent. Well, lots has been happening this month, but we'll rattle through because of the time. Grand Theft Auto 6 was delayed. That was quite a while ago, but to November 26. Interesting to see all the other games that are going to be released have to completely change their release dates. I don't know if you were planning on picking it up, James. I've got so much to play, but I am interested. I really enjoyed the previous games and Red Dead Redemption as well.
Yeah, I still haven't finished GTA 4 or 5, so it's way down the list of GTA games to finish.
Excellent. So you could have it delayed for another 10 years or so.
Yeah.
You'll probably get
Won't even notice.
Excellent. Another game that's been on the chatter this month is Half-Life 3. It is not confirmed, but there's still lots of rumours that that's coming. I would love it. I don't know. Have you played Half-Life, Half-Life 2, all those ones? Oh, James, you got an amazing experience ahead of you. Half-Life 2 and Episode 1 and 2, which confusingly is after Half-Life 2. Effectively the third one, but not called number 3 because Valve don't seem to like the number 3 for some reason. Anyway, apparently there is a new game possibly in development. There was also a VR game called Half-Life Alyx, which is apparently one of the best VR games ever released, but I don't have a strong enough kit to play it, so excited if it does come. I feel like it's one of those games that people will talk about forever and it may not ever arrive.
Yeah, so there's enough to talk about already that is going to arrive. So yeah, again, too far away for me to be concerned.
Indeed. Something that did arrive is Steam machines. So sticking with Valve, you're more of a PC person. You mentioned, I think, 2 of your 3 games this month were on Steam, James.
Yeah,
Any interest in these sort of half PC, half console hybrids?
no. The interesting part is, again, it very much depends on the price. It's quite small and cute looking. It's in a cube shape, and obviously it's designed to go into your living room rather than in your geeky game dungeon with your other sweaty middle-aged men friends in string vests. So it brings it more into the console market and appeals to a wider range of people. But if it costs over £1,000, then no one's going to be remotely interested in it, unfortunately, from the console market, because consoles themselves are getting stupidly priced. So you're not going to find an 18-year-old choosing between the new PS whatever and a Steam box, because if the Steam box is like 1,500 quid, then not very exciting. And again, the specs are set to play a certain level of game, and with a PC already, you can just upgrade it regardless. So we spoke last month about the Xbox Rogue Ally Xbox, whatever it's called, box, and said that's a bit pointless because it's fixed to a particular processor speed, a particular graphic chip, etc. And this will be the same with this new box. So you could build your own probably for cheaper, but it looks quite cute.
Yeah, it's interesting. As like you said, it seems to be the direction Xbox is going as well. Maybe we'll look back and think, oh yeah, this did all make sense. But I think growing up on consoles, with consoles, the sort of the price point, the simplicity of it, being able to just plug it in and use it, has kind of worked in the past. So we'll see how this all pans out. There's also been various little streams this month. There was an Xbox partner preview. There was a Japan focused state of play. I was going to say Japanese, and then forgot what I was trying to say. It wasn't a Japanese state of play because I wouldn't have known really what was going on. It was a state of play focused on Japan.
Yeah.
And there was also a clear up from the Idea Xbox stream that we didn't have to cover last month. But essentially, lots of games coming, some of which we may finally get to in years to come. But anything that grabbed your fancy off that list, James?
Yes, very quick. I'm going to talk really fast. So listen very quickly, listeners. Here we go. So on the P, yeah, it's too fast. Even I can understand that one. On the PlayStation side of things, a couple of interesting ones from the Japan ones. They're all very Japanese type games, aren't they? So Broken Law Unfollow looks interesting. That's 16th of January, so that's really soon. I like games that come in really soon because they're not going to get cancelled, not going to get extended. Sort of a horror game focused on social media in some kind of way. And it says you're meant to use your phone to escape. So looking at the trailer, it looked quite gory and horrific, which is nice. But it had lots of phone type stuff in it. So I don't know if you actually use your device to control stuff or whether it's just the phone the person character has in the game. It's a bit hard to tell from the trailer. It looks really interesting, looks very fascinating. There's another one in the Broken Law series as well coming in the summer, but this one's coming in January, so I like the look of that one. It's a cute puzzle game called Motion Wreck. Yes, if I can read my own handwriting. So it's very much an 8-bit, old-fashioned looking retro type thing, but you can record things you've done. So you can like record yourself going 7 spaces to the right, and then when you get to the part that requires that, you can then press the play button, and that plays that sequence, so you can get through different puzzles. So it looks different and interesting and retro and all the kind of things that I normally enjoy, but when I get around to it, I'll probably hate it. On the Xbox stream, which I moved on to very quickly, Crow Sworn is a side-scrolling platformer, which looks really good. It looks full of action, sort of some mysterious figure in a top hat and tails. Very much horror cartoony-esque, and loads of stuff looks like it's kicking off on the trailer. So again, really looking forward to that one. Not sure exactly when it's coming out, but that looks really good. And Reanimal, which is from the makers of Little Nightmares, the original. That kind of split into 2 different houses. So one half of it carried on and made Little Nightmares 3, the other half disappeared and made this game called Reanimal, which looks quite similar graphically to Little Nightmares in some ways. So it's a horror adventure. It's all about surviving together. So it's a 2-player co-op. So you're meant to play it with another person. I'm not sure if it's online or on your sofa, but it looks really interesting. And yeah, the theme is survive together, and it's coming out on the 13th of February. So again, really interesting. Love Little Nightmares. Good fun playing with another person. Just need to find a friend. Your turn.
Excellent. I really thought you were going to say no. We were just going to move on. We must work on our notes. Excellent. Lots of good stuff. I would add Zoopunk in the Xbox partner stream, which looked kind of cool. You play as a sort of edgy rabbit. It looked a bit sort of Jedi Survivor. What's it called? Star Wars Jedi Survivor, that sort of gameplay. Look forward to that. Tides of Annihilation, I thought looked great. That looks like it could be another sort of scratch the itch of Expedition 33, Clair Obscur, which we both enjoyed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Raji Kali Yuga, sorry. I really enjoyed the first Raji, which was a nice little story about set in sort of Indian mythology, which again is just a world I don't know and hadn't played, which was good. This has pivoted to something a bit more sort of high production value and a bit more action adventure. It'll be interesting to see if it can keep the charm that the first one had. And just quickly, going back onto the ID stream from last month, Mouse PI for Hire is the one on my list. Sort of Steamboat Willie style Mickey Mouse, but a first-person shooter. If that doesn't whet your appetite, go and look at the video. It's amazing. And Aphelion by Don't Nod, who I think do great stuff. And of course, Egging On, which I'm enjoying. Excellent.
If it doesn't involve controlling a lighthouse, that'd be delightful. Good.
Indeed. Well, that's the show. Please remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. Consider giving us a 5-star review. That really helps. If you've got PS Plus, fancy playing along with us, remember, thank goodness you're here. Remember to look out for our Games of the Year show, which will be dropping on this feed just before Christmas. And let us know your favourite games that you've played this year, and we'll give you a mention. So get those in the next couple of weeks. So before the sort of, I guess, 19th-ish, something like that. Get them in as soon as you can, and we'll feature you. Why not come over and interact on our socials? We're Aches and Games. Go to the Facebook page or email us at achesandgamespod@gmail.com. I'm Giles Nicholson. You're James Hopes. Say goodbye, James.
Goodbye, Charles, and everyone else.
I'm trying to get us out. I'm trying to get you off to your appointment. See you
You're
next
trying to
month.
get me off. Lovely.
See you
Thank
next
you.
month. Oh, second Friday of next month. We'll explain on the socials. It might be a week late, but we'll see you for the Christmas special first.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.